Hi, welcome back. So we've done a little bit of practice painting on in your sketchbook with acrylic paint. So now we need to think about our project. So for step one, when you're going to outline, it doesn't matter what you're going to paint. In this case, we're painting a cow, but it could be anything. You need to do an outline, same as we would when you're drawing from your photo or an object. Of course, we're not going to use a pencil, no pencils. We're going to use a tiny brush and we are going to water down a light color, maybe yellow, orange, and ochre, very thin, very light, as you would with a soft pencil. This is a soft outline with a paintbrush. We do it with a color that's really light in case you make a mistake. You can go over again the next day when it's a little dry, or even the same day with a bit of a darker color. That's fine too. So if you're looking at a photo, you want to look at proportions or things lined up, etc. Let that dry. Now day two, we're going to start with a background. Rule of thumb for me, in most cases, it depends on your artist that you choose, it's best to work from the back to the front. We do this because if you make a mistake, we can come back in the next day, I'm using my hand, and you can paint on top of the blue and it will be covered. If you do all this beautiful detail on the face first and then you go back and do the background, you might end up covering some of the face and then you're doing this flip-flop thing the entire time. The base coat can just be a few colors mixed together. There's no details yet. We're just filling it in, okay? One thing that happened last year, a lot of students would be so careful about going around the outline that they would leave a space. It was like a little halo. You don't want to do that because then the paint's going to dry. You'll go back in the next day and paint in the horn and you're going to be left with this white border around your entire subject. So go close. Don't leave this white space, okay? In fact, you might even want to cover up that yellow line entirely. Like, don't worry about covering that up. You can always go back in the second day if you want. All right, step three. Let's say your background is done, it's dry, come in the next day, and you want to fill in basic flat colors. This is like coloring in a coloring book, in between the lines. Again, mix those colors nice and rich, at least 2 or 3. I was looking at the photo. In this case, just trying to be realistic. You can make yours as abstract as you want, depends on the artist that you choose to do this project. Again, I'm not doing details. There's no tiny lines. It's fat areas of color, fairly flat, just filling it in. I choose to blend mine in really smooth. I had no artist in mind for mine, just trying to give you an example. Keep a lot of paint on your brush, nice and wet, nice and juicy. Sometimes when you're trying to get in those tiny places, you want to flip your pencil and on its side to get that nice edge. You can also switch to a smaller pencil, but I actually kind of like the flat ones. I find those are my favorite. You can't really see the photo of the ear here, but there was a shadow on the inside that I was trying to fill in. Don't do anything dark today. I am avoiding the eye and avoiding the nose, nothing black. That's a really difficult color to color in. So not only are you just doing your flat spaces, but you're not doing details yet, and you're not doing any super, super dark colors quite yet. Don't know if you can see the horn. The horn was a brown with a bit of yellow and some orange. There's a few colors in there. You can mix on your canvas too, like you could fill it all in and then go back in and highlight with certain colors. You don't have to get the perfect color on your palette. I see sometimes students spend all their time trying to get the perfect color. Just go ahead and mix straight on your canvas. On mix, add a little, take away, add a little, take away. Again, if you make a huge mistake, let it dry, come back the next day and fix that up. Be experimental with your colors. I mean, there's probably no green literally on that horn, but it's a nice way to make a brown, add a different color. Always wash your brush in between. Again, use those areas in your palette between your colors. get what you want. Now, step 4. Here we can go back in with the small details and change your brush, switch your brush out for a smaller one. Get the tiniest ones you can. Normally, I would say never use a watercolor brush, but in this case, I'll make an exception if you can't find a small acrylic brush that's working for you. Try them first. Remember when we practiced, we said you can almost cover up any color once it's dry with lighter colors on top. So I did not switch. Yes, here I am. I'm switching to a watercolor brush. That went on a little smoother. If you do that, please, please, please be extra, extra careful when you're cleaning up this brush, because the acrylic paint will absolutely kill those soft bristles of a watercolor brush. Try a few different ways to paint. Here I'm blotting. If you don't like it, paint it back over and go back in again the next day. It's a wonderful thing about acrylic paint. Oh, here I was trying to cover something up and trying to get the exact same color as the day before. That's a little tricky, but I can help you with color mixing. Now the background that we did the first day, that was just to fill it in so you're not left with any white empty spaces in the canvas. Let's pretend we're being a little Van Gogh here. Go back in with some colors that are similar to what's in the photo, or not, make up some new ones. And just kind of play around with your background. At least then you're left with blue spaces in between, and there's no white, big empty white spaces in your canvas. With details in black, I did water down the paint a tiny bit just to make that nice and smooth, because you really don't want to do that twice. If you make a mistake with black, it's a little trickier to cover up for sure. All right, so that's it. That's how this will probably take 3 or 4 classes, maybe 5. At the end of each class, you're going to scrape away. Unfortunately, we can't recycle. This is why I want you to share as much as you can. Scrape any blobs of paint into the trash can. There's always the green bucket in the sink to just set your brushes in your palette, and we'll let them soak. And we'll wash them up later at the end of the day once they've had a time to get nice and wet. All right, your turn. Smocks on and off you go. Thank you.